Hi everyone, and welcome into the Writers Roundtable. Taylor Stern, Brian Broaddus, Rob Phillips, and Dave Hellman. All right, we know free agency is here and the team is shaking up the roster, but I want to look ahead a little bit to 2019 and talk about leadership. We're talking about this new wave, new faces coming in here, but you got the old guard. You got Jason Witten back, Sean Lee. Brian, I'll start with you first. What do you want to be the dominating influence in that locker room?
I think you need to stay with the young kids. You know, I'm the old guard is the old guard. That's fine. Go for it. You know, Witten coming back. You know, you talk about Travis Frederick is coming back though in a position of leadership. Sean Lee. No, it doesn't need to go that direction. Go ahead and keep the quarterback in charge. Go ahead and keep Ezekiel. These kids, they did a great job of leading last year. Keep going with it. Don't let the old guard get in the way of these young kids.
I like that. I like that. You got some new guys, too, that will have full seasons. Amari Cooper.
Yeah, and I think to Brian's point, mentorship was Sean Lee's role more than anything last year because of injury. He missed a lot of time, and he found himself in a spot where he was supporting Jalen Smith. He was supporting Leighton Vander Esch and letting those guys be empowered, and I think that's going to continue. Sean's going to have a role on this team, but it's going to be a lesser role than what those guys have, and I still think Jason Witten's going to play a lot of snaps, but I hear Brian, and I do think this is officially Dak Prescott's locker room. I think of him first, not just because he's a quarterback, because I think he connects with everybody in that locker room, and I think that's only going to continue to grow as the quarterback.
Well, and before you, Dave, I like that you brought up the mentorship because unlike any other team in the league, they seem to pay that off. I mean, you're looking at Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator 2 years ago, literally the backup quarterback, doing exactly the same for Dak Prescott. We don't know what Sean Lee's future will be or Jason Witten's, but those guys are definitely mentors.
Yeah, Rob kind of stole my thunder a little bit just because I'm right there with you though. Dak Prescott. I mean, he's entering his 4th year. He's the unquestioned leader of this team. I think he's one of the best leaders I've ever been around just covering football teams. On top of that, he's probably going to be playing on a huge contract by the time the Cowboys start playing again. There's at least a good chance of it. This is his locker room. Go back to Zeke. When Zeke was a rookie, it made sense that Jason Witten was the centerpiece of this team. That's not the case anymore. He's a 4th-year guy. He grabbed this thing by the horns last year. I'm with you, Brian. I don't expect that to change. I think there's a role and a place for Jason Witten and for Sean Lee. This is a young team. Having him back on the roster doesn't change that in my opinion.
I hear you guys talking a lot about Dak and Zeke, and I like it. You brought it up. They're going into their 4th season. Are they considered the old guard or the new wave?
Like I think they're still new wave.
They're
new wave is compared to, like, if you talk about Frederick and you talk about
I can't call them, they're in their prime. They are football players in the prime of their careers, especially Zeke. Zeke is in the peak of what he should be as a player. I don't think of them as new. I don't think of them as old guard. They are the focal points of this football team. Dak and Zeke are the keys to how far this team is going to go.
Okay, if you flipped it and said Tyron Smith, what if Tyron Smith was a leader? Would that be like, would he be old guard?
Oh, well, yeah, he's been here for 15 years, it feels. I mean, he's been here since 2011.
See,
yeah,
I just don't want to see.
Still only 21 years old.
It's unbelievable.
I don't want to see that change in that locker. I think that was a good thing last year.
I don't think it's going to change. I think what's really unusual for Dak particularly is to have a 3-year quarterback that's had as many starts as he's had.
Yeah.
That's really unusual, and that's why they think he's just going to get better and better. But I'm with you on this because, and I know you like to disagree, but I'm with you because I think this young group, if they're going to take the next step, and that's what we keep hearing, they've got to apply what they learned last year, the frustrations of the Rams loss, and move it forward. That's what this group's going to be in 3 years. It's going to be the young guys.
I like it, Brian. You've brought up the T-shirts, the slogans that Garrett's have. Wasn't Next Step your idea for next year?
Would not surprise me.
Yeah.
I would not surprise me.
I like it.
I tell you what, they need to do something. They need to do something other than Yetis and T-shirts. They need to find a way to get to that next step. And they keep bringing it up. Because if they don't get the next step, we'll be roundtabling about a new head coach here.
Well, mic drop.
Maybe bring in some free agents, or what are they going to do about that?
No, we're gonna draft. Maybe
draft a couple guys.
Next week we do roundtable. I bet you we talk about some guys being signed here.
Ooh.
I bet you're right. I bet you're absolutely right.
I like that foreshadowing because if you want to keep up with everything free agency, you know where to go. DallasCowboys.com, the tracker. These guys, great articles, insight. Brian's watching any of the new guys. He will have full scouting reports, so stay tuned to all of that. And thank you so much for watching.